The rain in the city didn't fall. It attacked. It turned the gutters into rushing rivers of city grime. And Susie's umbrella, a vintage polka dot fine with a slightly bent spoke, was losing the battle. Move it, Suzie. We're already 20 minutes late. If the valet sees us pulling up in this heap while you're still fumbling with your bags, I'll never hear the end of it. Lucas sat in the driver's seat of his leased silver sedan, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. He was wearing a tuxedo that cost more than Susie's car, and his hair was gelled into a rigid, unforgiving wave. I'm coming, Suzie panted, sliding into the passenger seat. She was clutching a plastic-wrapped bundle to her chest, like a newborn baby. I just had to make sure the hem didn't touch the puddle. Lucas, look at this find. It's a 1950s, I don't care, he snapped, swinging the car into traffic. I don't care if it was worn by the Queen of Sheba. It smells like a dead grandmother's attic. Suzie, I can smell it from here. It's overpowering the leather scent of my car. It's just cedar chips and history, she whispered, her heart sinking. She looked down at the midnight blue silk, peeking through the plastic. She had spent 3 weeks carefully restoring the delicate petals by hand. She felt beautiful in it. She felt like a secret princess. The ballroom of the Grand Pierre was a sea of black ties and stiff silk. As they walked in, Lucas kept a firm, almost painful grip on Susie's elbow, guiding her toward the corner furthest from the light. Stay here, he commanded. I need to talk to the senior partners. If anyone asks, you're wearing vintage couture from a private estate. Do not mention the word thrift. Do not mention bins. And for God's sake, don't tell them you sewed the zipper back on yourself. Suzie stood by a marble pillar, a glass of cheap champagne in her hand, feeling like an imposter. But then Mrs. Vanderwaal, the undisputed matriarch of the city social scene, approached. Her eyes, sharp as diamonds, swept over Susie's dress. My dear, the old woman murmured, leaning in. That drape, that stitch, is that a midnight petal? Susie's heart leaped. Someone saw it. Someone knew. It is. I found it in... She got it at an exclusive archive sale in Paris. Lucas's voice boomed as he suddenly appeared, sliding an arm around Susie's waist with a proprietary squeeze. Very rare, very expensive. I had to pull quite a few strings to get it for her. The lie sat in Susie's throat like a stone. Mrs. Vanderwaal narrowed her eyes. Paris. Funny. I could have sworn the only known petal was lost in a warehouse fire in '82. This looks remarkably well preserved, almost too well. The socialites around them began to whisper. Lucas's smile faltered. He could feel the eyes of his bosses on him, searching for a crack in his luxury facade. The car ride home was silent until they hit a red light 3 blocks from Susie's cramped apartment. You embarrassed me, Lucas said, his voice low and vibrating with rage. I didn't say a word. You lied, Lucas. You told them you bought it. Why couldn't you just let me be proud of finding it? Proud of being a scavenger? He turned to her, his face contorted. Look at you. You're wearing a dead woman's clothes. You spend your weekends digging through trash while I'm trying to build a life of status. You're a weight. Suzie, you're the anchor that's pulling me down into the mud. Lucas, it's just a dress. It's not just a dress. It's who you are. You're cheap. You'll always be cheap. You look for the bargain because you don't think you're worth the full price. He reached over, unlatched her seatbelt, and leaned across her to open the passenger door. The rain sprayed into the car immediately. Out, he said. What? Lucas, it's pouring. Get out. Take your mothball rags and go back to the basement you crawled out of. I'm done trying to polish a stone. I want a diamond. He didn't wait. He shoved her, and Suzie tumbled onto the wet pavement, the plastic-wrapped dress falling into the gutter. He slammed the door and floored the accelerator, splashing oily street water all over her face. Suzie sat in the dark, the midnight petal, soaking up the filth of the street. She didn't cry. Instead, she reached into the gutter, pulled the dress out, and squeezed the water from the silk. "I'm not a stone, Lucas," she whispered into the rain. "I'm the one who decides what a diamond is." Chapter 3. The First Stitch of the Empire. Suzie didn't go home that night. She walked 3 miles in the freezing rain to her tiny studio apartment. The midnight petal draped over her arm like a drowned bird. She spent 48 hours straight at her sewing machine, not to fix the dress, but to study it. She realized then that Lucas was right. About one thing, people did only see the price tag, but they were all fools because the price tag was a lie. The pivot. 6 months after the breakup, Suzie launched The Sovereign. It didn't start as a shop. It started as an anonymous blog. She would post photos of luxury, items found in high-end boutiques, and tear them apart. This $4,000 bag has a plastic core handle. It's a scam. This limited edition jacket uses a polyester blend you can find at a flea market. She became the ghost of the industry. Designers hated her. The public obsessed over her. She was the only person telling the truth in a world of expensive lies. The power of the stamp. The turning point came a year later. A famous influencer had been accused of wearing a fake Birkin. The internet was in a frenzy. Suzie, still working out of a converted garage, posted a single video. She didn't speak. She just used a high-powered macro lens to show the stitching. She held up a stamp sheet had made, the same one she would later use on Lucas. Authentic. The market value of that specific bag tripled overnight. The influencer offered Suzie $20,000 just for the sovereign seal of approval. That was the moment Suzie realized she didn't need to sell clothes. She needed to sell certainty. The first encounter. By year 3, the Sovereign was a physical office in Soho. Suzie was no longer the girl in the rain. She was a woman in architectural minimalist silk. Her hair pulled back so tight it looked like a weapon. One afternoon, a man walked in. He didn't recognize her. The Sovereign was known only by her reputation, and Suzie often worked behind a frosted glass partition to maintain the mystery. It was a junior associate from Lucas's firm. He laid a briefcase on the counter. "My boss, Mr. Thorne, needs this watch verified. It's for a very important client. He's a bit of a stickler for prestige." Suzie looked through the glass at the watch. It was a Rolex Submariner. A quick glance told her it was a super clone. A high-end fake that would fool 99% of people. She walked out from behind the partition. The associate's eyes widened, but he didn't put the pieces together. He just saw a powerful woman who looked vaguely familiar. "Tell Mr. Thorne," Suzie said, sliding the watch back across the counter without a second look, "that he's still buying stones and calling them diamonds. This is a fake. And since he tried to bring a counterfeit into my house, he's barred from our services. Permanently. But he's a partner." The associate stammered. "He's a man who can't tell the difference between heritage and a hobby." Suzie replied, "Now get out before I blacklist his entire firm." As the door swung shut, Suzie felt a cold, sharp thrill. She wasn't just building a business. She was building a cage, and Lucas was walking right into it. One luxury purchase at a time. While Suzie grew her empire into a billion-dollar beast, Lucas was drowning. He had climbed the ladder. But the ladder was made of credit card debt and social performance. He had met Tiffany, a woman who treated people like accessories. To keep her, he needed to be more than a partner. He needed to be a legend. He heard rumors of a private seller holding the midnight petal, the very dress he'd thrown into the gutter years ago. He didn't know Suzie had spent 5 years planting the dress's legend back into the market through shell companies, making it the most sought-after, lost item in history. He thought he was finding a miracle. He didn't realize he was finding a hook. To afford it, Lucas did the one thing Suzie knew he would do. He took a high-interest loan, from an anonymous private equity firm. The name of that firm? Sovereign Holdings. Lucas stood in front of a three-way mirror in the presidential suite of the Grand Pierre. Adjusting his cufflinks, he looked like the man he had always dreamed of being. A titan, a tastemaker, a winner. On the bed lay the garment bag containing the midnight petal. To Lucas, it wasn't just silk and thread. It was a $4 million shield. It was his ticket to a senior partnership, and the only thing keeping the Sovereign Holdings debt collectors from seizing his car, his condo, and his reputation. Is it ready? Tiffany swept into the room, draped in modern diamonds that Lucas couldn't actually afford. The CEO of the firm is waiting downstairs. He said if this gift is as legendary as you claim, the partnership is yours tonight. It's more than legendary, Tiff. Lucas smirked, zipping the bag. It's the most authenticated piece of history in the world. I have the digital trail to prove it. He didn't mention that the digital trail led back to a series of anonymous servers. He didn't care. He was intoxicated by the scent of his own success. The grand entrance. The ballroom was a den of vipers in velvet. Lucas walked in with the garment bag held high, Tiffany on his arm. He spotted his boss, Arthur Sterling, standing near the center stage. Lucas, Sterling boomed. The man of the hour. I hope you brought the miracle you promised. Better than a miracle, Arthur, Lucas said, his voice carrying across the silent room. I brought the lost soul of French couture. He unzipped the bag with a flourish. The midnight petal shimmered under the crystal chandeliers. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. For a moment, Lucas felt like a god. He looked around the room, basking in the envy. And then, the heavy double doors at the back of the hall swung open. The arrival of the sovereign. The room went dead silent. It wasn't just because a woman had entered. It was because of who she was. Suzie didn't walk. She commanded the space. She was flanked by 4 security guards in black suits. She wasn't wearing couture. She was wearing a simple, rugged canvas coat over a thrifted slip dress. But around her neck was the sovereign medallion, a heavy gold coin that signaled her status as the world's final word on value. Lucas felt a chill crawl up his spine. What is she doing here? Ms. Sovereign, Sterling breathed, stepping away from Lucas, as if he was suddenly radioactive. We didn't expect the honor of your presence. I heard there was an authentic Dior being presented tonight, Suzie said, her voice cutting through the humid air like a diamond through glass. And as the primary lien holder of Mr. Thorne's assets, I thought I should see what my money bought. Lien holder, Lucas stammered, his face turning a sickly shade of grey. Suzie, what are you talking about? I took that loan from a private equity firm. I am the firm, Lucas, she said, stepping into the circle. She didn't even look at him. She looked at the dress. And I'm afraid I have some bad news for the room. Suzie pulled a small ultraviolet light from her pocket. She shone it not on the silk, but on the inner lining of the bodice. 6 years ago, Suzie addressed the crowd. A man told me that a dress only has value if it has a pedigree. He told me that something found in a bin was garbage. So, I decided to test that theory. Under the UV light, a hidden signature appeared on the fabric. Not a Dior logo, but a hand-stitched set of initials. SB Suzie Bishop. I found this dress in a church basement for $5, she said, her eyes finally meeting Lucas's. The room erupted in hushed, horrified whispers. I restored it. I lived in it. And then, I watched as a man threw it into a gutter because he was too refined to see its worth. She turned back to Sterling. This isn't a $4 million masterpiece, Arthur. It's a $5 thrift find that I've spent the last year hyping through my shell companies. Lucas didn't buy a legend. He bought my old laundry. The collapse. You sabotaged me? Lucas screamed, lunging toward her, but her security detail moved with the precision of a closing trap. No, Lucas, Suzie said softly. leaning in so only he could hear. "I just let you be yourself. You wanted luxury. Here it is. It's expensive, it's exclusive, and it's completely hollow. Just like you." She signaled to her assistant, who handed Lucas a legal folder. "Since the asset you used as collateral for your loan is officially valued at $5, Suzie announced to the room, "Mr. Thorne is now in total default. My team is currently seizing his accounts." As for the dress, she reached out, took the midnight petal from the display stand, and tossed it onto the floor at Lucas's feet, directly into a puddle of spilled red wine. "Keep it," she said. "It finally smells like what you said I was, cheap." Suzie turned on her heel and walked out. She didn't look back to see Lucas falling to his knees, or Tiffany walking away from him without a word, or the security guards closing in to escort him out of the building. She walked out into the cool night air, hopped into her car, and told the driver one thing: "Take me to the nearest thrift store. I feel like finding something real."